Welcome to the RadioU podcast. Coming up, should dogs be allowed everywhere babies are?
Also, is there such a thing as a wrong grandma name?
All that and more on the way next. Obviously, the Super Bowl coming up, but that's not the only football news going around. Allie, I'm assuming much to your chagrin, yesterday it was made known that Myles Garrett, the star player at this point for the Cleveland Browns, has let it be known that he no longer wants to be a Cleveland Brown and has requested a trade. Although, as I see here, the Browns, at least at the moment, are saying, kick rocks, we're going to keep you around.
Yeah, he has 2 years left on his contract, I believe, which is a 5-year contract. But yeah, this was very disheartening to see something like this. He gave what I considered a very classy, note, and he posted that. So I don't feel any type of bad feelings towards Myles Garrett. He has dedicated a lot of his career. I mean, he's 29, so NFL careers don't last much, into their 30s. So his career is not over, but he's used up a lot of his prime in Cleveland, and so I got to be honest, I told you and Nene this yesterday. I felt like he was another Joe Thomas type that was going to be in Cleveland for forever, for life. But I also understand, he wants to play in and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the way that the Browns are run right now, I am a Browns fan. I love this team, but I'm sorry. It just seems like they just keep shooting themselves in the foot whenever they get closer to a potential, run into the playoffs. And I'm mad about so many things. I got to be honest, and I don't even want to get into all of that stuff right now.
Sure. There's
plenty of decisions that you can point back to be like, why did you make this choice? We wouldn't be in such a bad place right now if you had made different decisions. But hindsight's 2020. So it's hard to kind of cast judgment there. But there has been a long record of bad decision making when it comes to the franchise of the Browns. So yeah, all that being said, I am very sad to see Myles Garrett want to go somewhere else.
So here's my question. It sounds like you understand why he might want to leave.
Sure.
I don't know how much of on your hierarchy of Browns current players where he would rank as a favorite of yours, but I would imagine high because he's probably the best player they have.
Yeah, I'd say him and Denzel Ward are probably my two favorites. Myles Garrett, just because he's an awesome guy, loves Cleveland, is fun-loving, and I always love his, his Halloween, I guess, ritual.
Antics,
of putting out the quarterbacks he sacked on like gravestones in his front yard. I love that. And then also Denzel Ward, from Ohio State, so love him too.
So when Myles Garrett gets traded, will you then root for him? This is my question. Will you root for him, a favorite player of yours, even though he's left? And not only did he leave, he's forcing your team to trade him somewhere else where he thinks he can win. Will you cheer for him on whatever team he winds up on?
I'm afraid not. And that's not because I don't like the guy. I do. But I'm not the type of person to follow a player and then cheer for them. I have followed some college players like CJ Stroud into the NFL. And I in the playoffs, I was hoping he would beat Kansas City and all of that. But I typically, once I have my team picked, which has been the Cleveland Browns for as long as I can remember, grew up rooting for them and watching their games, as hard as that has been. So yeah, I will not start suddenly cheering for another team because a player I like goes and plays for them.
You understand how silly that is, right?
Why is that silly?
Because we're, the old Jerry Seinfeld thing about we're all just cheering for laundry. The players come and go, and the only thing that is consistent is what the team is wearing.
No, it's a sentimental thing. And I feel like also, you will have certain memories tied to certain players for sure. But for me, I long remember the teams often more than the players, and those moments, those big games. And you sometimes in a team sport, you can't even just point to one player. And so, yeah, I feel like I have more sentimental ties to the team itself, to the laundry, as Jerry Seinfeld would put it, than to like a certain player.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I have my favorite teams, of course, But logically, it makes much more sense to me to cheer for players because they're actual people. And so you can actually attach yourself to what they've, their personality and their experience and whatever. And maybe you feel they represent the town. Or sometimes teams are run as a business, and it's hard to cheer for businesses sometimes.
But
Just ask the Dallas Mavericks fans right now.
For sure. But what if that player that you love suddenly is revealed to be a horrible person?
Then that's exactly why it's a great time to stop cheering for him.
Oh, maybe you should stop, putting all of your hope in one person.
What if your team acquires a bad person and makes them the face of your franchise?
Cleveland did that.
And that didn't stop you. The laundry.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson didn't stop me from being a Cleveland fan. Exactly.
So which one of us is flawed?
Hudson, have you seen the new show that's coming out on Amazon Prime, I believe later this year, and that is House of David?
I have it right here, February 27th.
Yeah, it's coming out pretty soon, actually. I didn't think it was this month.
Apparently, a few days ago, they put out a new trailer for it.
Yes, they did. And I really loved the trailer because it shows you how epic what the show is going to be. And I always felt like anytime I read, First and Second Samuel and kind of understood King David's story, I was like, this is such an epic story. Why is it not, in a format like a good movie or a show or something like that? Because it's got so much insanity in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it really lends itself to that format quite well. So I'm excited to see it finally being translated in what looks to be a well-made TV show. Don't know until we watch it, but so far it's so good from the trailer. But what I actually wanted to talk to you about was I really like in this recent trailer, they start it and end it with a question that I think not only points to the importance of David's story, but also points to the importance of the story that came later, which has changed all of our lives, which is that story of Jesus.
Okay.
And scripture kind of works that way. It ties together, the prophecies of the Old Testament are fulfilled in Jesus in the New Testament.
Right.
But I love it because in the trailer, it starts with this woman who I think is supposed to be Saul's daughter, who eventually becomes David's wife, asking the question, can one stone change the course of history?
Oh, that's her asking that.
I'm pretty sure, because later
I thought it was
shows,
just a narrator lady.
Right, at first it seems like it, but at the end of the trailer, it shows the person who says it, and I think that's the character saying it. So, but yeah, it starts it and ends it with that question, which obviously we know the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah.
So yes, it did change the course of history because he ended up killing the giant Goliath, becomes this amazing...
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry if you didn't know. But he becomes king of Israel and all of that, and it has become a huge figure in scripture and also the lineage of Jesus Christ. And I really liked that question, not because of how it impacted David's story, because the first thing I thought of was, yes, one stone did change the course of history, and it's the stone that's rolled away from Jesus's tomb. And so I'm really hoping that they were, being very thoughtful and meaningful in asking that question, so that it has a twofold meaning, because that's what I took from it.
That's a good point. When I saw that question, I thought, no, the stone can't do it on its own.
That's true.
The stones, if you just leave it, it just sits there.
Right.
But obviously a stone with somebody behind it with intentions can obviously change the world.
Right. And obviously the intention of God was for it to change the world when the stone is rolled away and, Christ is revealed to be resurrected. So I think we can happily and, joyfully answer that question as yes, a stone did change the course of history, because we are now the benefactors of that change, know, and we get to look back on that and see kind of this imagery and that twofold meaning of being like, yep, this is all tied together. We can see this narrative throughout scripture that God had a plan, and we just needed to, see it as it came together. And so happy that it did, right?
Yeah. And imagine if God can change the course of history with a stone multiple times, by the way.
Right.
Imagine what he can do in your own life with stone, or who knows what else. If you want to know about a relationship with God, hey, it's as easy as talking to him wherever you are right now. saying, hey, Jesus, I want you in my life. I want things to change. I want things to be better. I want you to show me that. And you can also go to radiou.com/free gift. That's a great place to start as well. The Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, of course. And no matter how much you care about the Super Bowl, what we all care about is eating some good food on Super Bowl Sunday. So the RadioU hotline is open.
877-2-RADIO-U.
Asking what you would provide or what you would hope to find at a Super Bowl get-together to eat. Some good responses coming in, like Scott, who says buffalo chicken dip. That's always a great choice. Any dips on Super Bowl Sunday are always a great choice.
Yep.
I do have a list here, the top 10 necessary Super Bowl foods, according to a survey that was commissioned by Tums, of course. And buffalo chicken dip was number 9 on the top 10.
Nice.
So Scott, not alone. We also heard from Josh. Josh said tamales are our necessary Super Bowl food. I'm Mexican, so tamales are basically necessary for all occasions. I love that.
I love that too.
I don't know if I've ever eaten a tamale. Have you had tamales?
Yeah, had tamales before.
Yeah. No, not the candy. The tamale.
Yeah, no, yes, I have had them
I've had
before.
hot tamales.
Yeah.
I haven't had the actual traditional tamale. I don't know if I would like it. Tiffany.
I think it's pretty good.
Also, that was not on the top 10 list. Tiffany says, pigs in a blanket are a must. I love the way you think, Tiffany. So easy to assemble.
Yep.
And so that is something that I will be known to contribute. Of course, I'm a big hot dog fan as well.
Sure.
So that is something that I possibly could contribute, although I don't see. And finger food, not messy, but that did not make the top 10
Didn't make
list.
the list.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
Allie, some more texts are coming in, but what would your contribution be to our Super Bowl spread?
So the first thing that I thought of is, and I don't know if they would put these together or not, but I always think of chips and salsa and nachos as, something that's like unnecessary for a football party. And then also I was thinking of, something you can throw in the crock pot that's like quick, easy, and you just grab them out. Something like meatballs or like chicken wings or something.
Oh, yeah. Good like barbecue meatball.
Yep.
Is, you can just grab with a toothpick or something.
Yep.
That's a good choice.
Yep.
Susanna, I vaguely remember this. Susanna says, last year I brought shrimp scampi because on Radio U, you did a survey that said it was one of the top foods for the Super Bowl.
Nice.
I vaguely remember. Yeah, obviously we were in disbelief in whatever that survey gave us shrimp scampi as one of the top 10 Super Bowl foods. But this updated version doesn't have that.
Doesn't have the shrimp. Yeah, I was going to say I don't personally eat shrimp, but I do have family members that love it, so I wouldn't be shocked if they...
Shrimp scampi is that's like pasta, right?
That's what I thought, but because it's not like the actual, like you buy those little rings of shrimp from like Kroger that's like already assembled
the
or whatever.
Cocktail shrimp,
yeah.
That would make sense.
That would make sense.
I think a lot of people would like that.
Yep.
Shrimp scampi feels messy.
Yeah.
Not that every Super Bowl food is messy, but just odd to include pasta in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it doesn't quite go as well together.
James says nachos and buffalo chicken cups. I don't know what that exactly means. I feel like I can picture it in my mind, like little like cupcake, like muffin size little bakes of buffalo chicken dip or something like that. Who knows? That sounds good.
Sounds delicious.
If that's what he's talking about. If not, I just came up with something. So the rest of the top 10 list, I don't know if I've seen anybody say the number one thing on the list, which is obvious, which is wings.
I said wings.
You did say wings?
Yeah, I said chicken wings.
Oh, I thought I heard. Okay. Well, yeah, that's an obvious choice.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was 49% of people. Basically, 50-50 chance that people want to see wings at their Super Bowl spread. Number 2, this is surprising. Not as surprising as shrimp scampi. But number 2 on the list is like barbecue, as in like
grilling?
Pulled pork. No, like pulled pork or brisket type of thing.
Okay, so like sandwiches, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Which is great. I'd never have associated that with the Super Bowl.
No, I think that more like Labor Day or Memorial Day or something like that.
Yeah, right. Summertime. The rest of the top 10, 7-layer dip, pizza, chicken tenders or nuggets, nachos, cookies, brownies, buffalo chicken dip, and potato chips.
It's just all easy to eat food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, mine, that was off the beaten trail a little bit. When I was growing up, one of my best friends, we would always go to his house for the Super Bowl. and his mom would make stromboli, and it was an amazing stromboli. And so I always associate that with the Super Bowl. Not that I have any capabilities of really making that myself.
Yeah.
But that would always be a nice treat to see a Super Bowl stromboli.
I mean, it is a fair food, so I feel like that it fits the vibe still.
Yeah. I miss that. That would be good. And my mom always does a ham and Swiss bread bowl, which is like a dip, but also like in a bread bowl.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Any dip. I just feel like you cannot have too many dips at a Super Bowl party.
As they say in Only Murders, dips for dinner.
Yes. Have you ever heard of Disney's Galactic Star Cruiser? Are you familiar?
I'm not sure, actually.
Maybe if I explain it to you, it'll ring some bells. The Galactic Star Cruiser was a Star Wars experience that was built at Disney World.
Okay.
It was an immersive experience. It was basically like you could stay, it was like a hotel and whatever.
Oh.
And you could stay in it for an incredible, I mean, like Disney is expensive just to go.
Yeah, for sure.
This is one of the most expensive things you could do at Disney. But it was like you're staying in a hotel that's like Star Wars. Like, and then all the stuff you would do inside was like, you're in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You are Obi-Wan Kenobi or Mr. Spock or whatever.
Spock?
And so
that's the wrong franchise.
They did this Galactic Star Cruiser, and so obviously not only was it expensive for you to stay there and take part in the experience. Well, again, I feel like one of the most expensive things they've ever done. It was also incredibly expensive to build. And then in September of 2023, they closed it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No wonder I haven't heard about it.
Yeah. Well, it didn't last very long. Like, we're not talking about, like, this is sometime between when they rebooted Star Wars with Daisy Ridley and September 2023 is when this was built, opened, and everybody was excited, and then it went away.
Okay, so this is separate from like the whole, they set up that experience that was like a part of the park.
Yes.
That's set up to be like Star Wars. This was different from that.
This is different.
Okay.
And now, so of course they have this giant Galactic Star Cruiser building that was closed in September of 2023. What do you do with it? Apparently, they are turning it into glorified office space. It will now house, and I guess this is a good place for them to do this, but it will now house some Imagineering stuff that is done for Disney World. Where they're inventing rides and whatever.
Sure.
All the Imagineer stuff they do. Some of it will be moved into what was the Galactic Star Cruiser. A tremendous story about wasting a lot of money.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like that's how it goes with these amusement parks and theme parks. Is like sometimes things work, and you put a lot of money and time and investment into it, and then sometimes it just doesn't. It's not as big of a hit as what you thought it would be.
Yeah.
I would imagine it would be hard to maintain something like this.
It was, and I think they were probably banking on, when they came up with this, the idea that, the first Star Wars movie just came out and it did so good.
Yeah.
And we're going to make Star Wars movies and have them come out every year at Christmas and everybody's going to love them. And obviously that hasn't happened.
Nope.
And so that probably killed a lot of the enthusiasm for this. And it was just crazy expensive that many average people couldn't afford it anyways.
Right.
I'm assuming, again, I don't know the exact timeline besides that it closed in September 2023, but COVID probably came along and had an issue, had its word in this as well. But it is crazy, for other companies, they could do something like this and it would cripple them. And for Disney, this is a footnote to a footnote of their story as a company and as a theme park organization and whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly they can kind of pivot from something like this where it's like it would be a disaster for another park. But for them, they're like, oh, well, we're just going to turn it into office space now. You know?
At least it's going to some good use.
Sure.
But then there's got to be people out there, too, that are shaking their fists going, I wish I could have gotten to stay in that immersive experience. If you could have just dropped the price a little bit instead of just closing the whole dang thing.
Yeah.
An interesting debate has come up. I'm interested to hear your thoughts at 8772 RadioU, and Allie, your thoughts as well. Should dogs be allowed everywhere babies are? This has come up online after a woman kind of went viral saying that she brings her dog pretty much everywhere and that she thinks that dogs should be allowed everywhere babies are. She says that even her doctor was, she says, pleasantly surprised when she took her dog along with her to an appointment. And part of her argument is when you go out to dinner and you hear babies screaming and crying and throwing things on the ground, you should consider if a dog should be allowed there too. The dogs can clean up the mess that a baby leaves behind. Allie, what do you think? Should dogs be allowed everywhere babies are?
I think that's a pretty broad brush to paint with, not gonna lie. So it's hard for me to say yes to that because I'm sure there is places and instances where that would not be the case. And you know, babies, the reason we take them everywhere is because they rely on us. They have no way to take care of themselves. And so obviously they need to come with us wherever we may go, you know, as their parents or moms or whatever. And so it's not shocking to see, you know, you take your baby with you to a doctor's appointment or to lunch or wherever you're going. For dogs, it's different with pets. I don't know if I would go as far as what she's saying, you know?
Yeah. Well, I see some merits to what she is saying.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of legitimate reasons why dogs could be allowed more places than they typically are, if they're well behaved.
If they're well behaved.
But I think there's some important distinctions to make between babies and dogs. I almost think like a better comparison would be, should dogs be allowed everywhere a 3-year-old is? Because the babies, first of all, wearing a diaper.
Yeah.
Dogs aren't.
No.
Now, most dogs, especially service animals, of course, they're well trained. That's not going to be an issue. But for any other, we can't know. If you go to a restaurant or a doctor's office and somebody brings a baby, the baby is not going to poop on the ground. You don't know that about a dog.
Yeah.
You cannot guarantee it. And the more that it is allowed, the more likely it becomes that somebody who hasn't trained their dog very well is going to have it where that raises its head.
Right.
So then you could say, well, if dogs wear diapers, could they be allowed everywhere babies are? But I still say no.
No.
Because there's a very strict, pretty clear limit to the chaos a baby can cause.
Yeah.
A baby can make noise.
Yeah.
That's about all it can do.
Yeah.
A dog can not only make noise and not only, if it's not wearing a diaper, cause a mess on the ground or on furniture or whatever. A dog can also bite people at any time.
Yep.
And not that most dogs do, but yet again, the problem is you could have an entire room full of babies and have one adult. And the worst thing that would happen is the babies would poop themselves and it would be loud, possibly. You could have an entire room full of dogs, and even if 99 out of 100 of them are behaved, one that's not behaved causes an entire issue. And so that is the distinction. That is why dogs are more like toddlers than a baby.
I also think it's important to note the woman that says this on this online video, which was like an interview on like a Subway or something. She has a very small lap dog that seems very well behaved. And the guy that's interviewing her does mentions like, well, what if you have a golden retriever? To me, my mind didn't even go to golden retriever. It went to dogs bigger than that.
Yeah.
Like Dobermans or Great Danes that are huge dogs. So I just feel like this is it's too broad of a brush to paint with.
Well, I think I think I've found a solution. I'm a solutions oriented guy. And I think the answer is a dog can go anywhere a baby can go if it is the size of a baby and wearing a diaper. I think that if you treat your dog like a baby, if you have a baby carrier for it, it is less than, what's like the biggest baby? Like 15 pounds?
Sure, maybe.
If your dog is less than 15 pounds and wearing a diaper,
when is a baby not a baby anymore? That's
good point.
Yeah.
I think a 10 to 15 pound limit, even 15 pounds is pretty high. There's a lot of dogs that are under 15 pounds. 10 pounds or less and wearing a diaper, you can bring your dog anywhere.
Okay.
Whoa, we got to love them or leave them here on Radio U. You can chime in with your thoughts and advice at 8772-RADIO-U. And of course, if you ever have a love them or leave them situation you need help with, let us know. 8772 Radio U. I'll tell you right off the jump, this is a love 'em. This is a different angle than we normally get here in a love 'em or leave 'em. Here's where we need advice. We have a guy who says, I have a situation coming up where I will be at my girlfriend's apartment alone before she returns from work. I've never been at her apartment alone before. I want to make the best of a golden opportunity, but I don't know how. The question is, what can I do while I'm there to take some of the load off of her, working full time, living alone, and that can show her that I really love her? This guy's planning ahead.
I love it.
This is some great forethought, and also what better place to turn than Radio U Mornings.
Exactly.
To get an answer here. So 8772 Radio U, a guy going to be solo at his girlfriend's apartment for the first time for an hour or two while she finishes up work. What can he do to do some nice stuff for her?
Oh, such a good question. I'm so excited. Usually with these love 'em or leave 'em, I'm a little depressed at the end because I'm like, dang, what's going on with this relationship? But this one, I'm like, I am so excited for them.
Yes. 8772 Radio U. We need some ideas. Let's help this guy out. Some ideas that he can do to maybe, clean up or whatever around there, do some nice deeds. But also, you don't want to overstep any lines since it's your first time in her apartment all by yourself.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of good suggestions coming up. Justin says, cook her dinner is a popular pick. But Justin points out something important, and that is buy the ingredients ahead of time so you aren't using her stuff.
Ah.
Right?
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's still nice, but it's not as nice if you use her groceries that she was already planning for the week or whatever.
Right.
Like, you just don't know.
Yep.
So that's a good idea. Lindsay says, do a ceiling to floor kitchen clean. Very, very sweet of this guy. That's a good one from Lindsay. The more cleaning you can do, I feel like the better.
Yeah.
Tim says, clean up around the house and cook a nice meal. If they have a kid, grab the car seat and take the kid on an outing. But why would the kid be home alone?
I don't think they have a kid in this situation,
No,
but that
doesn't
is
sound like
nice of you to think of that.
Yes, that is nice. And Jake says he should clean for her and put some photos of them together around the apartment.
Aww,
so
I
make
love
a stop
that.
at like Walgreens or something first.
Yes, that's a great idea. I think, yes, if you want to do something that's like more, cleaning or, preparing dinner, some type of like acts of service, those can be really great. But also, I am more of a sentimental person. My love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
So my thought immediately went to, it'd be really cute if you left like little sweet notes for her to find later, like in different places. Because he sounds like he's already done some cleaning and done some stuff to make the apartment better. So I'm thinking more sentimental now.
Yeah.
So I think if you did that, it would be really cute.
Yeah, that is a good point. You can cover as many of the love languages, assuming he knows what hers is. But the more you can cover, if you don't know 100%, the better. Physical touch, probably out. Not much you can do in that scenario.
No.
But the words of affirmation, like Allie mentioned, obviously acts of service is a no-brainer. Gifts, leave some flowers.
Yeah.
Is always an obvious choice. Some flowers, chocolates, Valentine's coming up, of course. So just that kind of stuff. What's the other love language?
I'm trying to think.
Quality time.
Yeah, quality time.
Also hard, but like you think about that goes, I think that would tie into the cleaning up and making dinner. You're spending time making her life easier.
Yep, investing some time.
This is the kind of thing, like you could really go above and beyond and overthink the room and like it could pan out. But like the simple stuff is probably just what you want to do. Like clean things up, do things that are obvious that she will notice.
Yes.
That it's like, oh, you did that for me. Thank you very much.
Exactly. That shows your level of commitment, which she is definitely going to appreciate. So even though you may think you're just doing something small, it has deeper meaning.
Yeah. And not that she would suspect you of snooping, but if it's obvious that you used your time doing productive things.
Yeah.
And at the very least, you show you weren't just like watching TV or whatever.
Right.
And at the very most, show that you didn't use that time to take advantage of the situation. The Super Bowl getting so close. Just such a great occasion. Also a little sad because it's the end of football for a while. But you'll be happy to know NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is aware of the conspiracy theories that have been spread about, in this case, the Kansas City Chiefs for some reason being handed out the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl every year by the NFL. He was asked yesterday at a press conference, Commissioner Roger Goodell, what he says in response to the conspiracy theories that the NFL officiating favors the Chiefs to try to get them into the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah.
First, he said, well, it's a part of the script. I have the script for every season. But he was joking. He says, the quote is, that's a ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our officiating better? Is that an admission that the officiating failed in the Bills-Chiefs game, first of all?
I mean, I feel like there were definitely some calls that people pointed to as like, what's going on here? Why didn't the Bills get this, on this fourth down run? Why didn't they get the first down here or whatever? But yeah, I tend to agree with him that I don't believe that the NFL is rigged towards the Chiefs. But I also feel like it's so hard to look at the Chiefs and kind of wrap your mind around how successful they have been, because it just seems like everything goes in their favor. And it's just like, how is this possible?
I'll tell you how. That they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, probably the best quarterback and best coach in the entire league.
And that's the thing is like you're trying to explain something that just doesn't make sense, which just shows you how, out of this world good that they have been, that it feels unexplainable because you're just like, how? But that's just, it is what it is.
But it's funny, too, that the conspiracy theory is, if I ask somebody to explain the conspiracy theory and all that would go into that, it's so much more complicated than me just saying, well, they have a really good quarterback and a really good coach.
Yeah.
And some other really good players, too. The conspiracy theory, you'd have to be like, well, the NFL comes up with this script and they decide before the season who makes it into the Super Bowl. Then they let the officials know secretly who they need to the games play, like all the, and then, but also keep it secret from like the gambling things, because if that came to light, then that would be a big lawsuit and whatever. And it's just like you're layering all these all these nonsensical things, and almost every conspiracy theory is like this,
right?
You think about all the people that have to be involved that somehow all do their job correctly and keep it under wraps. It's so complicated versus the simple explanation. The Chiefs are just good.
Right.
Just accept it.
Yeah, the operation that they would have to put together to, make sure that this conspiracy did in fact happen and they were able to get the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, it would be astronomical. You're talking about so many people that would have to be involved, where it would be like there'd have to be a whistleblower somewhere.
Yeah.
So, that seems pretty unlikely in my opinion. You'd have to suspend your critical thinking, your reasoning to be able to get to that point.
Yeah, it is. It's nonsense. Roger Goodell is right about that. It is nonsense. It's ridiculous to think that the NFL is doing things to try to make things easier for the Chiefs, at least as far as the officiating goes. So just enjoy and accept that the Chiefs are great.
But I will say this, because I feel like both of these things can be true. Is Roger Goodell happy that the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl? Yes, he is.
I think so. But, when you're the commissioner of the NFL, I feel like you're happy no matter who's in the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, that would just be you're happy no matter what. But I'm just saying it's obvious that they are benefiting from the Chiefs dynasty.
Valentine's Day is coming fast and furious. We're less than 2 weeks away now before the big day. And we should be sensitive, Allie, that while to many, Valentine's Day is a day of love and romance, people, spending time together, enjoying each other. There's also, it's also a day of pain for many who think about the lost loves that they may have experienced. This is just a painful reminder to them of what they've been through, which is why a Muskegon, Michigan animal shelter is one of many offering your chance at revenge on your ex that hurt you and broke you in one of the most dastardly ways possible. This Muskegon animal shelter is offering to neuter your ex this Valentine's Day.
Not for real, though, obviously, because that would be insane.
That would be horrible.
And a crime.
Exactly. But they will do it for just $25. What they will actually do is if you donate $25 to this animal shelter, they will name one of the feral cats they catch after your ex. And then, of course, the cat has to be neutered. And so then your ex is neutered. I hope that makes you feel better.
Yeah, I hope this sentimental or token of, I don't even know, revenge will help you out a little bit. Get over your ex. This is definitely a gimmick. I feel like I don't want to completely blame this animal shelter for doing something like this. They're just trying to get their money to be able to go ahead with what they call their trap, neuter, return program, which is when they, catch cats that are out in the wild, that just live outside, and they neuter them and then return them to their colonies and whatnot. So that's a good program to have.
Yeah,
that's
a great idea.
So I don't want to shame them for doing what they need to do to get their money to be able to continue this program.
Yeah. But if you're the type of person that does feel like this is how you get revenge, imagine like you're telling your buddies, right? You're like, yeah, I donated $25 to the animal shelter so they name a cat after Michelle and neuter her. And then imagine that gets back to Michelle. She's like, hey, James, did you hear about your ex? He paid to get a cat neutered with your name. Like, you think she's going to be like, oh, like she's going to get a restraining order probably against you is what she's going to do.
Yeah, I think for the most part, this is probably marketed towards women doing this. But yeah, I think it'd be definitely not a move I would make for any exes. I don't have any exes that I hate that much that I would want to do something like this. But I think we talked about this not too long ago. When you go ahead and do something like this, to me, it just shows how much thought space that ex holds over you.
Right.
That it's almost like a compliment to them when you go and do something like this,
I know some relationships end very badly, but the best revenge almost always is completely moving on.
Forgetting them.
And imagine this power move. The next time maybe they are the one that have regrets and they come back to you and you're like, nope, I've got other things going on.
Yep.
How amazing would that feel? Wouldn't that feel better than you being the one that crawls back to them or that names a cat after them? It feel so much better.
Yes.
And so also how do they even what do you get? A certificate? Like, hey, we neutered the cat.
That'd be so weird.
We neutered Michelle the cat for you. That I don't know exactly. How do grandparents get their names though? Why do so many of them seem to be the same? Grandma, grandpa, papa.
I don't know where that tradition.
Mimi.
I don't know about Mimi, but I don't know where the tradition of naming a grandparent came from.
Grandpa,
or whatever.
Meemaw. So boring. Why can't grandparents have more fun names?
I don't think grandma and grandpa's boring.
It's boring.
No, it's not.
I don't call either of mine grandma or grandpa.
What do you call your grandparents?
Granddad, grandmom,
so much
grandma,
better.
grandma, papa. Anyways, I understand why some grandparents want to switch it up. You're going on in life. And this is one of your great accomplishments as a person is to have not just children, but grandchildren. Yeah. It's one of probably the most exciting things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You have a child and you don't even have to, and I think it's the best of both worlds is what they say, right?
Yeah,
you get to enjoy the child, but you don't have to take care of the child yourself.
No.
You're probably in many cases in a better financial situation. You can go on vacation whenever you want. You can go on vacation to visit the child. You can go on somewhere else. You can see the child as much as you want. You can, anyways, you should get to choose your own name for a grandparent.
Okay.
So I have a problem with this woman is this in Australia?
I can't remember, but that sounds right.
Where she hasn't even had children yet, but her mom has already informed her. This woman is 29. Her mom, obviously older. her mom wants to be called honey by their grandchildren.
Okay.
Whenever this daughter has grandchildren for her to have.
Yeah.
The daughter says, no, we will not. My children will not be calling you honey. Why not if that's what the grandmother wants?
I mean, okay, I personally have a preference of what I thought was like acceptable names, but everybody has in their family different names that they go with. And also it could be different on the sides of your family. Like for instance, my grandfather on my mom's side, we called him Papa, but my grandfather on my dad's side, we called him Grandpa.
Well,
so
of
like,
course, it'd be confusing. Some people do that. They have the same grandparents' names for both sides. That's crazy to me.
Well,
How do you tell apart?
I called both my grandmas grandma. So, I mean, to me, it's like you're looking at the person. You can see that it's different. But, so yeah, I had my own preferences as far as what I thought was like appropriate or whatever for a grandparent name. I think there's a sentimental thing tied to it as well. My mom, now that she's a grandma, she wanted to be, called Nana when my older sister had her kids. And so, that's kind of been new for me to get used to being like referring to my nieces and nephew when I'm talking to them to talk about Nana versus grandma. So you get used to it. But I don't know if I like honey. I don't know if I can get behind that one because it's also used a lot in relationships.
Yeah. The daughter actually says in this scenario that her mother's, who wants to be called honey, no, wait, is she saying that her husband calls her honey? Or that who will be the grandmother's husband calls her honey?
No, she says that her mother already calls her husband, so this would be the daughter's dad, honey. I'm assuming dad. We don't know if that's stepdad
Grandpa.
in this situation.
It would be grandpa.
Yeah, but
grandpa is called honey.
No. So she calls her husband as like a pet name, honey.
Okay.
So it's weird for her for then the grandchildren that have not been born yet to call their grandma honey because she's using honey in a romantic sense with her husband and then also wants to be called honey as a grandma sense. So it's a little like, that's a weird dynamic there.
I don't see the problem with it.
I mean, I don't think it needs to be made as a big of a deal as it is here.
Yeah.
This woman is like adamant that she's not going to let her children call her this. And the mom is adamant that if ever the children call her grandma or something else, she's going to stop them and correct them. So it just seems like they're really, butting heads here. But I don't think it needs to be that big of a deal.
That is interesting. I was thinking, how would the grandmother, because you wouldn't refer, maybe with a baby, you would refer to yourself in, like your Elmo.
Yeah.
Maybe, honey's holding you or whatever.
Yeah,
That'd be,
right.
I don't know. How do you institute that? It really has to be a third party.
Yeah.
In other words, the parents of the child.
Yep.
We're going to see honey today.
Yeah.
I just think, the mom brought you into this world. She can choose what she wants her grandma name to be.
That's true. But I will say if not all parties involved are on board with it, it's going to be extremely confusing for those poor grandkids.
It's exactly. Especially, you want to talk about confusing to grandkids. Having two grandmas that are different people. Who are you talking about? We're going to see grandma. Which one? I don't know. That's crazy to me. Thanks for listening to The Hudson Show. Please don't forget to rate and review the podcast.